What's going on, YouTube? What go down H-Time? It's your boy Switcher coming back at you. Now, as you all know, Texans got the dub. But let's talk about some things that we saw today. Well, sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. But first things first, our special teams. I really like what we're doing as far as our special teams go. It seems that we're playing more discipline, when it comes to special teams, as far as filling our lanes and all that good jazz. Yeah, you can definitely see the improvements there with the new coach. And as far as I'm concerned, you won't be seeing those mental lapses that we saw last year and prior years before then. But moving right along, next thing that I want to touch on is our linebacker core. Now, I like what I saw from Dylan Cole. I like what I saw from Zach Cunningham. Duke Ejiofor is solid. Shout out to Wink, you know what I'm saying, because he was real high on Duke Ejiofor. Me, I kind of wanted to see him on the field, and I like what I saw. Now, my only knock against Ejiofor is that one play where that spin move of his was actually effective. He kept trying to revert back to that, after that one play, and it looked like a crappy ass Madden animation. He was just spinning, but the guy was still in front of him on some shit. Don't quote me on that. But hey, you guys saw it. Next, outside of our linebacking core, I want to talk about our backup D linemen. Guys like Carlos Watkins, he was holding it down as far as his rush lanes. You know, Overall, I like what I saw from him. I'm confident that playing alongside the starters in DJ Reader, Watt, Clowney, and Merciless, he can be that next guy that takes us, a step forward in situations and whatnot. But moving to the offensive side of the ball, I'm gonna come back to the defensive side of the ball, but I want to touch on a few things that I noticed on offense. Brandon Wheaton, and shout out to El Sticky because I just got through watching his video. Um, Brandon Wheaton looked solid. Now, again, this is the first preseason game. Everything was pretty much bland, vanilla, the based offense, and things of that nature. But one thing I will say, and one person who I will give some credit to, and again, this is just the first preseason game, so I'm not hailing him as something that he isn't as of yet, but I want to give a shout out to Bill O'Brien because normally, we would just see in certain situations, we would see run up the middle, run up the middle. Oh yeah, it didn't work the first two times, but we're gonna try it again anyway. Let's run up the middle the third time. And then we're punting. Uh, this game you saw a bunch of different variety of type of runs. You saw inside zone, outside zones. I mean, you could just see the difference in our play calling now. The one thing that I will say about Bill O'Brien and his play calling, uh, we got to see a little bit of Watson, but if what we saw after Watson left, if we can see that kind of production happen with him in the game, as far as calling the running back screens, and setting up those kind of screenplays, I like where this offense is headed, and those plays that Pope was making, you know, those kind of plays they go from being simple 5 yard plays, maybe 7 yards at best, to, if I'm not mistaken, he made a few of those plays like 20, 30 plus yards. You know what I mean? So when you can get that kind of lightning jolt out of an offensive player, you know that it gives life to the team. You know, and like I said, when you got the team that we have, talent isn't something we're looking for. That spark and that igniter is what we looking for. You know, and that's when you can get those kind of plays from Pope, guys like Pope. Hopefully Lamar Miller turns it on. Hopefully we can see that kind of production from him. And if we can, then you guys can expect a lot of points being scored on offense. Dude's gonna respect the Texans. You can believe that. Alfred Blue, man, oh man, oh man. Alfred Blue did not look good. I said it in the Sauce chat earlier that me personally, I believe that Alfred Blue is only gonna be here probably till after Foreman's injury heals and they are like 100%, behind the fact that he's recovered from that injury. Because if you just look at the way he was running, it's like he took a few steps. Well, even though they were small steps last year, he took those small steps last year. And like in this first preseason, again, the first preseason game, it's like he's taking a few steps back, and it's like if the hole isn't there, it's like he can't set up his blocks to make a hole. Versus, and it's well, I ain't gonna say versus, but that vision he lacks it, and this is against the starters, and then it carried over to the backups, and even in some cases, if I'm not mistaken, it to the backups, and he still been a he wasn't able to make those reads, and it's like if guys like Irvin, well, I ain't gonna say Irvin because he only had really one good run, but if you got guys like Pope outshining you, I don't see how he ends up making this roster. Now, Tyler Irvin, earlier people was saying that we should cut him. I wouldn't cut him just if we're looking at history. I know Tyler Irvin hasn't really done much for the team, but we could say the same thing about a lot of players that have left the Texans organization and I'm sorry guys, that have went on to other places, and sad to say they've won Super Bowl rings. I mean, I don't need to really go down the list of those guys. I mean, if you guys call yourselves Texans fans, you should know these guys. So as far as that goes, I don't want to see Tyler Irvin in another uniform, possibly Patriots jersey. You know what I'm saying? A Patriots uniform. I know that's weird, but it seems like they kind of benefit, those kind of teams. They benefit off of when we cut guys like Irvin and whatnot. But with Irvin, I wouldn't cut him. I wouldn't, if at anything, I would keep him for kick and punt returns. You know what I'm saying? This way you don't have to put Will Fuller in those situations. This way, you're not having to put other speed guys in those positions. This way it frees them up to be primarily a receiver or corner or whatever they do. They're not having to juggle between offense, defense, or special teams. You know what I'm saying? They can, if they are a corner, they can focus and keep their time on being a corner. You know what I'm saying? If you got guys like Sammy Coates, who I'll touch on in a minute, who, speed guys like that, yeah, it's cool to use those guys as weapons, but if you got a guy like Tyler Irvin who can return kicks and punts, you're not putting your other positions in harm's way, getting hurt. Now, moving on to Sammy Coates. Man, I like what I saw, and as being one of the main people that was saying, hey, outside of Fuller and Hopkins, we wasn't really just seeing no consistency. I believe Sammy Coates can be that guy, and especially that third guy with Watson. Yes, I do believe that he can be that third guy. And what's gonna scare a lot of teams and what's gonna make a lot of Texans fans happy is the fact that he's not just gonna be that guy that can go and run a 5 and out, 7 and in. The little inside curls. The five. I mean, now I said 5 and out already. You know, he can get vertical. You know what I'm saying? He can hit those post routes. In or out. Either way. He can run those type of routes. You know what I'm saying? Because not only does he have the height, but he has that speed to go with it. And like I said, this like I've been saying. When you have that kind of receiver, that has that kind of physical talent with the body frame that he has, if the ball is placed in the right spot where it needs to be, he can shield off most defenders. Because if you think about it, most defenders now outside of the Shermans, the Patrick Petersons, I don't want to say Tristan Decuda because I'm naming guys that Stark, um, you know, outside of those guys covering them, the average DB is 5'11", 5'10" at most, because they're trying to cover those quick and shifty guys. And when you're having to be out there covering a bigger body guy, again, if the ball is placed, I mean, we seen teams like the Pats, the Packers, Saints. They take advantage of these simple throws where they just put it right where the ball needs to be, and their receiver just bodies that the defender. You know what I'm saying? And it's an easy completion, and we saw that today with Sammy Coates. Now, again, like I said, I gotta see it consistently. You know what I'm saying? Because if he can produce it at a consistent rate, it gives you more flexibility. You know what I'm saying? And flexibility in today's NFL is key. Bruce Ellington had some solid catches. I like I like the fact that he's adopted that toe drag swag from Hopkins, man. I'm loving that shit because a lot of these calls, man, they can go either way. And when you can clearly see the turf slide up, that's showing that he had one foot down and he was dragging the other. Therefore, you can't deny him the catch on those kind of situations. Last thing I want to touch on, and this is gonna upset some folks and probably make some people go, yeah, I can agree, is Bill O'Brien. Now, early in the game, there was a play where I believe he should have challenged it, and he didn't. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, fuck, man, here we go again. This is typical Bill O'Brien. He's going to let this play go, and then a play that could have either went either way, it ended up going the other way, and it cost us a timeout. But he didn't challenge that play, and then the Joe Webb run, which if you were watching, you saw that I would say he had the angles that they showed. He looked like he had the first down, but after they showed the replay, I saw that his knee was down, and I was like, yeah, that's how they gonna rule that. But he ended up challenging that play, and I'm like, you call a timeout so that you can get a good look at it, just to see that his knee was down, and you still challenge that. Like typical Bill O'Brien shit. I know Bill O'Brien is an offensive guy, but in late game situations, if we are in a late game situation like this, and again, you got to be prepared for these kind of things because you can't necessarily just pin the fact that, oh, we've got JJ, we've got Whitney, we've got Clowney, saying that you can't just assume that because we have those names on this roster that an offense can't cook up a scheme that goes up and down the field. Now, I know that's something you guys may not want to hear, but let's face the reality of it. It's the NFL. This can't happen. So, with that being said, if we're in a late game situation and like the last two plays in particular, what I'm talking about, I called it. I'm sitting there saying, watch the flats. It's gonna some kind of play action where it's gonna be somebody out in the flats, and no sooner after I'm saying it, my mom's and them they telling me hush up and all that. We trying to watch the game, and I'm like, the hell with all that. Cover the flats. You know what I'm saying? Because I seen it coming. Rack, well, Bill O'Brien first and foremost needs to be. If Rack hasn't made the adjustment, which I'm pretty sure he would, but if Bill O'Brien sees that, hey, your linebackers are just a yard or two, they're a yard or two more inside, you know what I'm saying? And those kind that 1 yard or two, it can make a difference in whether it be a minimal game or it could be a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? So those attention to details is what I'm looking forward to seeing get cleaned up as we progress through this preseason. But I've taken a lot of you guys. I'm sorry, guys. I've taken up too much of you guys' time. So later.